So I'm at the Paradise Hotel, just waiting to be collected to go on the Farm and Industry Tour. A few hours this afternoon on Norfolk Island. Apparently Brian, known as Bock, is on his way to collect me for this tour.
Niece runs the Armwoods pub.
Alright.
Geez, that's a good pub, isn't it?
Yeah, oh yeah, we go there regularly.
It's a bloody beauty. Tradition, as soon as we go to get there, we all meet and go to for lunch.
Yeah, the bistro's doing well.
I was there one Saturday night when they had a band. They collected off 400. That's how many people turned up. Geez, I couldn't believe it. Then they run shuttles at midnight to the Lula Bar for all the young ones.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a great pub. Barramundi for lunch.
Yeah, that's what my wife will have.
Everybody been to the Sunset Bar?
Yeah, I've been.
Did they have a band tonight you went?
I know. We came in for morning tea when one of the tours went in there for morning tea.
On the weekends they get a band out there.
Yeah.
It's pretty packed.
The big one on Friday night, I believe. He's a bit of a character. Pity he's so shy, isn't it?
Les, jeez. As we say, third wife, third house, third wife.
Yep. And storage for his kids.
Classic old days. At the end of the main street.
Okay.
Just behind the post office there, or the supermarket.
Yeah.
Flat out every day. There's 1,500 people here, but about 4,000 registered cars.
It's there. A lot of them have got hire stickers on them.
Yeah. Well, I work for three rental car companies, and they've all got 100 cars each. And the little old ladies and the little old men drive up on those curb things in town and pull the front bumpers off.
Yeah.
We do about 3 a week. That's just bumpers, that's not little owners. And here from Aussie, the ground strength, tantalysed strength. Poles are about $800 each, and the problem is the freight. It's the freight to Norfolk's the killer, so it's about $800 to bring the pole, and that's what they were trying to avoid. And little did they know, 60 years ago, that would everything would go underground. You know, in town there's no poles at all, and you won't find it. All right, we're at Farmer Lou's farm, and he's Louis Evans. He's about 84 now, I think, and he's supposed to be retired. The two sons have taken over the farm, but he can't resist grabbing the old hoe and coming down doing a bit of weeding and that. You know what it's like being a farmer. There's not much else you can do here. Ziggy. He's the guard dog.
So do they supply the local shops as well?
Yeah. The daughter-in-law has a shop in town there next to the bank. She sells a lot of stuff in there. But they also distribute it to the supermarkets as well. Every morning they'll take it in.
Yeah.
So he's lucky he's got underwater supply, underground bore. It goes down to 120 feet and it's never run out, like when you had your drought a couple of years ago. And it happened here. We've had half of our rainfall for the last 5 years. And Louis lucky because he's got an eternal supply of water. And you can see he runs drip tapes to everything.
Yeah.
And he pumps about 10,000 gallons per day on the property. Not litres, gallons, which is about a family would use.
How big's the property?
25 acres. So he's just lucky. Everyone else's bore, nearly everyone else's bore dried out in those last couple of years, but his never stopped running. I don't know, he's tapped into a river going from New Zealand and New Guinea or something. He's just, people were coming out here and getting water off him. It got that bad that the army brought in a desalinisation plant down and put it down at Cascade. And you could go down and buy water cheap, you know, off them, and everybody was down there buying it.
The bore water is obviously good quality.
Yeah, the bore water's beautiful. Just about everyone's bore is beautiful water, but the problem is they ran out of water. 30 years ago they stopped putting bores down because they didn't know how much water was underneath Norfolk. So you're not allowed to put another bore down. Just try and save what water we've got. Now these palms on the right are the Candia palms. If you look at that tree there, you'll see I got a call a couple of days ago from the palm fellas. Can we come and get your seed? Now I'm like everyone else, I planted trees about 30 years ago in the hope of being retired now and fishing every day, but it didn't work. Because what happened, the seed, they've been exporting seed from Norfolk for about 80 years. And an old fella Pullis, if you drive around the airport, there's a valley just full of palms. Yep. Now when he planted them, everybody thought he'd lost his marbles wasting good land, but he had the last laugh. Because for about 10 or 20 years, the seed value went from $150 up to about $300. And then it boomed and it went up to $1,100 a bushel, which is 2 20-litre buckets. So if you look at that tree there on the right, they've picked the seed in there. That yellowy coloured seed is one they missed last year. Yeah. And the green seed is next year's seed they're going to pick. So Louis, when it was $1,100 a bushel, he would have made about 100,000 out of this paddock, which took about 4 days to pick. Yeah. But what happened was, in the 80s, everybody thought, gee, this is a good retirement scheme, like everything else. Mm. So everybody planted trees, including me. I put in about 150. And in the first couple of years, we didn't make it to the $1,100, but it dropped from $1,100 down to about $300, and we got a little bit of money, and then it went from $300 because the market just got flooded with Candia palm seed, because it takes 15 years from planting it to selling it, and in that 15 years, everybody on the island had palm trees, so the market got flooded with palm seed, and then the price plummeted to $50 a bushel. Oh. Big drop, eh? Mm. It was very depressing. Yeah. So
that's what happens when I buy shares.
Yeah.
So the higher they are, the better they hire.
You're too high to hire.
Yeah.
Yeah, these ones. He's got a few seed on here. He might get a few dollars this year.
Now, when you said you planted trees, did you like plant small trees or?
Yeah, I bought that all about that big.
Okay.
It takes 15 years to get to about the height of this thing here and bear its first lot of seeds.
Yep.
Super slow growing. Now mine are about 20, 30 foot high, and they got to use ladders to climb up and pick the seed.
So you pick the seed every year?
Every year they pick the seed, yeah. And the problem is, all trees like water.
Yep.
And we've had hardly any rain, like half the rain, so the less rain, the less amount of seed you're going to have. It's just like people say, where's all the local honey? Well, there hasn't been any honey because there's no flowers for the bees to pollinate.
Yep.
But the trees haven't grown. Everything needs water.
What's your annual rainfall?
52 inches.
Okay.
But we've been getting 20, 26, 28. We're getting more than Charlie will.
Everyone working hard.
I went out there, I met a bloke on the tour and went out there to see him. 26,000 acres of dust.
Yep.
Jeez, they're tough fellas out there. But they love it, eh? They just love it.
They look at tough out there.
Jeez, hadn't rained for about 3 years.
There are kids out there that don't know what rain is.
Yeah. He did show me a photo. But they never did get rain.
Break your heart.
Jeez, yeah, they're just tough men out there.
You hear stories about that, like 7-year-old kids, they've never seen rain and rain, so they go
I can believe
they're
that.
knocking themselves off.
Old boy's garden.
Sticky night spider. Sticky as anything?
I love them pretty sticky.
Yes.
Kingfishing around here, you know, the kingfish, big schools can go past all the time, so you can catch plenty of fish. You can drive right to the top of the point, and then there's a track all the way down. Now the walk down through the lake, you walk back up. Especially if you've got a backpack full of fish. No, this is that's around the corner. This is Duncan Bay. That's a big one. And then that's his lookout. Capital's lookout on that furthest point there. Yeah, this way now. He owns all those places. Now, this is Lou Evans. He's from the first fleet. He's got 25 acres. The fella next door is an Adam. Byron Adam. Chuck Adams. Descendant of John Adams, the last man on Pitcairn. And he's got 28 acres, and then when we walk up the top of the hill, we look over to the next property of the Christians, and they got 50 acres. So back in the old days, the land was all distributed to the family. And I married a local girl from Kiwi, come up here in the 70s, late 70s. My mum and dad were dairy farmers who used to come up here for holidays. With all these fish and catching. I said, where are you catching all these big fish? He said, Norfolk Island, where the hell is that? So I come up to have a look because I was doing a lot of diving then in New Zealand. And I came and did some diving around the coast here where you're going to go to touring on your boat. And underneath the water here is just incredible. You can imagine there's a volcano and it blew up. The lava flows and everything all went underneath. So all in this bay here is just tunnels and caves going everywhere. You know, it's just, and the fish life is just plentiful, but and the visibility you can see for miles. Brown.
And have you had much rain in that 6 weeks?
Oh, about 20 mils.
Yeah, about 20. Oh.
But the thing is, what happens is that's Kaikoura grass. It recovers real quick. You only need like a inch or. They're really good as avocados.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, the problem is there's too many avocados and not enough people. So most of them fall on the ground and get eaten by the birds and the chooks.
I haven't seen one yet.
Haven't you?
We go to the veggie place next to Temper Cafe.
This one up here, this tree on the left, is the little house pear one. You know, you go to your coffee shops and have those order smashed avocado.
Yeah.
This one here is called bruised avocado. See them all? There's one knocked off. There's two.
You have to pay for those now, probably.
We'll check them.
Look at the crop of mandarins or something there in between those two trees.
Oh, yeah.
When do you go back?
Friday.
Oh, they might come right.
I'll sit them out in the sun, I know, right? These look like they're oranges.
Yeah, these are oranges. I don't know what they are.
And that,
Look like mandarins,
look
doesn't
like
it?
mandarins, yeah.
Look at how it's been squashed up into
Yeah, in between.
between, yeah.
So this little nursery here is where he grows all his seedlings.
Okay.
Now Yates, Australia and New Zealand commercial side only, have been bought out by an American company called Terra Nova. And they'll only sell hybrid seed in big packets, so $200 a packet. And you know what hybrid seeds is? You plant it, you get one plant, you can't get anything off that one plant. So it's expensive, but you know you're going to get a good plant. Some pumpkin farmers that were on here, a year or so ago said now they're paying up to 10 cents for one seed. Imagine telling the green farmer. He's lucky he's got water he can grow all year round.
People like them. Roasted capsicum, just beautiful.
Oh, my man used to say, I'd rather chew on an old pair of socks, boy.
He doesn't know how to cook them.
Roast them and peel them. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Not the socks on.
Socks in it. It's all better like that. Corn. Beans, look at the man picking them. And here's everybody's favourite, the old kale.
Yeah, now that's something else. That's like eating cardboard.
Horrible. Cardboard's better.
Probably is.
Not too many people like kale.
No, well, they've actually producing kale for you.
The Russians have been growing it for centuries for the cattle.
They're supposed to be good for you, that's the only thing.
Tiny bit of butter.
We used to grow,
Straight, eh? Mixing it with other stuff.
we used to grow the purple kale.
The area stay in this area, and the cows at Kingston stay in Kingston. They don't travel all over the whole island. They have their water troughs in a certain area, and that's where they'll stay. And all these cows will graze around here, and every night they'll go and sleep up under those trees up there. Now, in Australia, every week, 170,000 cows go to the abattoirs, so you can go to your Coles and Woolies and order, you can pick yourself up a rump or a T-bone. Here on Norfolk, they do between 4 and 6 a week, depends on how many tourists are here and how much the restaurants are demanding. So there's two fellas that do it. There's a butcher around near the airport, he gets involved in it. That's where all the ducks are hanging at the moment. And there's a bloke out the other side of the airport, Speed. He's a home kill fella. He's the bloke that I use because you can order half a cow off him. He doesn't operate a shop where he's paying rent or anything. And his price is like half a beast is about $12 a kilo over the whole thing.
Yep.
Whereas if you go into the butcher, you're paying up to $40 or $35 for sirloin and $40 for Scotch. So it's a much better way to go. Just get half a beast off them. Now I've got pigs and sheep, but I don't have any cattle. I've got one pet steer, but he's never going to go in the freezer. So what happens is, you'll notice all the cattle here have tags on them.
Yeah, I've seen
Okay, big tags on their ears. Now, one thing you don't want to be born here is the boy calf, because you're in deep trouble. You've got about 18 months if you're lucky. So what they might do is ring Speed and say, I've got a little Hereford. He'll be out under the trees at Anson Bay. He's 18 months old, red tag number 44. That's all he needs to know. Can you get it for me? And Speed will come out and someone early in the morning, at about 4:30. Because we can't have you fellas watching us going around shooting up all the cows now. And the things that are asleep, they use a spotlight and they shine it through, see the red tag and doof with a silencer. Now they do it so quietly that the other cows don't even move, and they'll put a sling around it very quietly and pull it out and do what they've got to do, and then they'll go and get another one somewhere else.
Yeah.
They'll take it back and dress it down and hang it up, and that'll be next week's meat. You know, you can't put meat straight out onto the counter. If you've got your own cows, he'll come and do it for you, and he'll ring you up and ask you how long you want to hang it for. Week, 10 days. Don't forget they're in a bit of a feeding frenzy, eating the cow, and he's trying to film them. And they're trying to tag them as well, obviously. And when there was 4 or 5, you started to get a little bit apprehensive. When there's half a dozen, you're starting to get nervous. And then when it got up to 8, I said to my mate, I can't concentrate down here, we need to get out of the water. Because all they're doing is going around in circles, banging them and keeping them out of the way, you know. These are the old telecom buildings. My son is doing his last house up in Buttering. His wife, they've been back here because they want to come back and live here next year. She's taking a shining to those 2 places that are on the market. This used to be the old communications station. Before that though, there was a pub in there, the Kingfisher Hotel.
Really?
Yeah, had accommodation in the little swimming pool. Come and stay here, look at the view you'd have.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, before I got here, it burnt down in 1974 and they never rebuilt it because they didn't have insurance. Very sad when a pub burns down. Old neighbour, he's 90 built. He's just started cutting his hedges. He keeps the place immaculate. And you can see how good he cuts his hedges. He was just doing the sides this morning, down the bottom. And when he does the top, he parks his truck on the other side and he climbs up. And he's got a long pole saw and he cuts the top. I can stand on the back of his truck and then he climbs back down, moves the truck 6 feet, does the next 6 feet, all the way along. He's 90 years old, about 6'2", wiry, tough old fella he is. And the little portholes, so he doesn't have to walk all the way out to the other end and cut the other side of the hedge.
Oh, is that what they're for?
Yeah, and
He's not silly.
he's not. And he built this little wall here because one time he was cutting it and he stepped back and ended up coming down the bank, so he built that little thing just as a little bit of added extra protection. So he's got 7 acres on the right. Now you can see where the beautiful hedge finishes, and this is Brian's hedges.
Natural.
He's here, I've got to get around to it.
Oh, natural.
So he's got 7 acres on the right, and his garden goes down the other side of that hedge over there. And his block runs all the way down into the valley, that valley ahead. And we've got 3.5 acres here, and the same going over the hill, exactly the same as Bill. So it's both their blocks together. So I've got a few sheep when I ran out of grass. I can put them over in his block, and I've got a steer and 2 sheep that are with the steer, and all of them are orphans. The steer's mum died when it was 2 weeks old, and this lady rang me up and I went and got it, the calf. And the 2 lambs, the mother, they were twins, and the mother kicked the bucket about a week old, when they were about a week old.
Yeah.
So I brought them up. But then when I brought them up, I had the steer in, which is a big fella now, in next door at Bill's, and I'd gone over to check the water, and the 2 sheep ran in, well, they're only young. 2 lambs ran in behind me. And then when I came back out, they didn't come back out. They stayed with the steer. And they've been with the steer ever since, thinking it's the mother, except it's a bloke. Anyway. But they're inseparable now. So they're in the paddock down over, and my neighbour there, he's Tim Thompson, he's a copper. And he bought the block next door. What have I done? Locked you in. And he's got 3.5 acres over the hill with tons of grass, and he's got a little black steer. So, and the thing would go with the others, and they just wouldn't be separated. So he says, "Oh, I'm going to shoot." I said, "It's too small to shoot." So they all stick together now, so they're all in his block, which is this side. And there's a gate in between his block, my block, and Bill's block, so we just alternate them. They just go backwards and forwards.
Hey, mate, I haven't got any yet.
So what he wants to do is he's heard about our thing, and we've got it. The only thing was that we didn't have the cylinder to hold the liquid nitrogen to store the embryos in that, which is coming on the next ship. So once that's here, then he said he'll start.
You've already had yours.
Oh, look at this.
Beautiful little lamb, eh?
Oh, I love that.
And he'll start bringing them over, and then we're going to get all the ewes on the island. There's about 40 ewes left. And they're all getting old, like these ones here. They're getting pretty old. That one that you just went up to, she's about to have twins. Look at the size of them.
Here's the ram.
The ram is this fella here. This good boy here. This fella here. And that's his son, this one.
You're out of a job.
Plane. Plane's taking off. Yes, goodbye. Sheep.
Out of Louis. It's just about impossible to kill nutgrass. Yeah, is it still good to go? My son's in the door all saying, "Where should we build?" So I'm up behind the hedge going that way a bit. They're all coming back. One's here permanently, one's coming back next year. So every day after I finish with you, I feed the pigs, get scraps from the restaurants all through town, from the old truck at the workshop there. Load it up with about 8 buckets, and I come down here and drive down, and I've got pigs down the valley there. The bloke dropping off, I've got a real big boar, and the bloke rang me this morning to drop one of his sows off. Down there, and the old mate, and when she's pregnant, she'll go back home, and he gives me a piglet from the litter. But he still already owes me one from the last litter, so now he owes me 2 piglets. And I got a big sow down there, she's about 400 pounds, so she has babies. I keep one for myself and hocked the rest about a month ago, and I took it in there and took 2 of us to lift it. It was like a month too long, too old. Anyway, the boy come home from fishing, he sold some fish and then he come home with his wad of cash for me, and he said that's from the butcher. And it was 740 bucks. That's it, it weighed 74 kilos. So that was a good little afternoon. But he said if we could produce 10 a week, he'd sell them. But there's no way you can do that. There's not enough pigs here. There's Shorty. She's ready to drop that gill.
Is on, so
Okay.
just be careful of that.
Geez, the girls are going to love it down here with the trees and the long grass.
Yeah,
Aren't they?
they're having fun.
Oh, coming.
Why the hell has everybody got an electric fence? Everyone's got electric fences. So I have the electric fences to keep cats and other predators out, dogs. I also have cows on the rest of the property.
You think you're going to get fed or something, eh?
And if I didn't have these electric fences, the cows would come into the chicken yard. Yeah.
But this is only mild. This is only mild for chickens.
Yeah.
That's not mild.
Got a piece of steel woven
This
into
is for
the...
the chickens. But amazingly, anything puts its wet nose on there, you'll get a little tingle, you know.
One on each one of those.
Brilliant idea.
So each one of these is right.
So you only need little scanners like that to put it up.
You lose a bit at the bottom.
You lose a bit, but it's enough for these guys.
Yeah.
But mostly people have them because of the cows. So either to keep cows in or keep cows out.
One or the other.
I don't have electric.
Hey girl.
Everything I have is free range. I don't like it.
So, welcome to Melaleuca. We have 12 acres of land here. The 2 acres here we use for our chickens. So these are what we call pasture-raised chickens, where they have a lot of space and they have access to pasture and access to soil to dig in and access to eat the bugs. So most of you would have heard of free range.
Yeah.
So free range is a bit of a difficult thing. I could have well over 1,000 chickens in this area and still call it free range. So you can have chickens that are mostly in a barn and they have a little bit of area outside where they can range and they're called free range. So pasture raised means they have access to grass and to bugs. Free range can be within a contained space where they've got no...
Roll them in.
And all the eggs roll down onto a conveyor belt, and I just put my trays here, and roll the eggs up.
Amazing.
And they're nice and clean because the chickens haven't been
You
sitting
can't
on
train
them
them
all
to
day.
lay them into the process.
Into the wow, it's so much work here for me, honestly.
What exactly do you mean?
chicken if we could do that.
Sorry,
What exactly do you mean?
well, you know, this arm gets really tired. So that's how wonderful these chicken caravans are. They're designed so that if I was on the mainland and we had foxes and things like that, they actually close up at night. So that you can get a solar power for them, so you can program them to close at certain times and open in the morning. You can do it, but you can also program it. We leave ours open unless we've got really stormy weather, because we don't have any of those predators. This is enough to keep cats and dogs and anything else that might attack them out.
Do you have a lot of cats on the island?
So there's 135.
Yeah.
Each one of these can hold 135. I've got about somewhere between
Haven't
120
seen
and
any.
150 birds. I can't actually count them all. And what tends to happen is that most of them will roost in one, and there'll be about 10 or 15 in the other. And I thought they'd go half and half. But, I think it's an extra piece of banana bread.
Who's going to verify?
Yeah. I had a school holiday group come through, and the kids gave a valiant effort, and I think there was 50 kids that came, and about 25 of them decided to give it a go, and we got 25.
There's a big tree's a pecan tree. Mandarins. Oh, here's a cat. Hello. Come and talk to me. That's a good boy. Here's Padre.
He called me up and he said, "Do you want a duck?" And I said, "Oh, what do you mean?" He goes, "Well, do you want a duck to eat?" And I said, "Oh, okay." And he goes, "Well, you have to kill it yourself." I'm like, "Oh, I've never done that." And so he came and showed us how to do it. But I said to him, "Hey, if you've got any females you want to get rid of, I wouldn't mind." And I thought I'd have ducks for eggs. But then I discovered that ducks really only lay when they want to have babies. So I kind of let them sit on their eggs, and this is what's happened. So we're now raising ducks for meat, and this morning I was just dispatching some, which will be sold. I don't know if you've seen Slip and Sons across from the airport. So they sell a lot of local meat, so they'll be looking after my ducks for me. If you guys stand back a little bit, they'll come and come on, little bubbies. So these guys just get out all the time.
There's always one that's a bit more adventurous than
Come on,
He's in charge.
yeah. It's amazing to watch.
come on, that's the
Yeah.
way.
Oh, we've worked this out now.
Good, Bubba.
And if we get there in a hurry, we'll get most of it.
Yeah.
Here they come.
What are we missing out on? Yeah.
Oh, what's going
How old
on?
will those little fellas be?
These guys were born about 3 weeks ago.
Okay.
And you can see the two bigger ones. So they were born towards the end of January.
Okay.
And the mother that's here with them is actually the mother of the two bigger ones. And she had a clutch of 9. And we lost 7 of them. They got out one night and they all got into one of the bigger ponds and drowned.
Really?
So, yeah, it was really sad.
Swim.
So she was devastated. She's had her 2. And then the next mum who had these 10 babies, I put them in together and the other mum absconded and left this mum to look after her bubs. So she's now adopted the 10 new ones and she's now got 12 babies. And Two Chimneys Reserve, which is at the end of this road, is where you get the best sun rises.
I'm ready. Ready and waiting. Like cup of tea or coffee?
They're a little bit unsettled today. Our eggs, the banana bread's made with our bananas.
40%. The rum, the whiskey and the Zambuca. Now, he'll tell you about the rum. Doesn't taste anything like Bundy rum. But it's absolutely beautiful. Not as good.
Initially our licence we could only sell through the liquor bond up in town, and we learned pretty quickly that particularly with